Bezos was accompanied by his fiancée Lauren Sanchez, whose social media post about meeting the Pope made people wonder, what did Jeff discuss with the Pope? Is it something we should be worried about? Well, before we get to that, make sure that you take a second to subscribe so we can make God the biggest channel in the world. Now, let's get back to it. Lauren Sanchez shared a post on her Instagram account on August 15, 2024, that turned some heads. She's the partner of the world's third richest man and holds the position of vice president at the Bezos Earth Fund, an organization that combats climate change among other initiatives. It was a privilege for Jeff and me to spend time with His Holiness at Franciscus at his residence in the Vatican, Lauren Sanchez wrote on the social platform. The media personality is romantically involved with Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon and the owner of the Washington Post. As of August 19, 2024, Forbes magazine estimates Bezos' fortune at approximately $200 billion. The discussion with the Pope particularly emphasized the urgency of climate action, a cause he's deeply passionate about, as are all of us at the Bezos Earth Fund, the 54-year-old elaborated. This $10 billion fund, which Jeff Bezos initiated in 2010, is designed to fund climate action and also supports early childhood education programs. Sanchez shared photos of the meeting at the Domus Sanctae Marthae, the Pope's residence, in her Instagram post on August 15th, noting that the Pope's wisdom, warmth, and humor left a profound impact. He reminded us not to take life too seriously, a simple yet powerful reminder to maintain lightness in our hearts, she mentioned. Now, here's where things get interesting. The meeting was neither listed on the Pope's official schedule nor publicized by the Vatican's media outlets. Sanchez mentioned that the three of them talked about the urgent need for climate action, a passion she shares with the Pope in her role as vice chair of the Bezos Earth Fund. Did you know that in October 2022, Jeff Bezos was honored with a Galileo Profits of Philanthropy Award at the Vatican? In front of Cardinal Turkson, the president of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, and Cardinal Parolin, the Pope's Secretary of State, Bezos presented his vision for fighting climate change, including his Blue Origin project, which aims to move all polluting industries off Earth. But why is the Catholic Church suddenly concerned about climate change? When did the Vatican start addressing ecological issues and climate change? Thanks to Pope Francis, finding that answer is much easier. In his 2015 social encyclical on the environment and human ecology, Laudato Si, Care of Our Common Home, Pope Francis begins by detailing what previous popes have said about the environment, global warming, and climate change. So, what did they say? The first modern pope to likely address environmental issues was Pope Paul VI. In a 1971 apostolic letter, he described ecological concern as a tragic consequence of unchecked human activity. He further warned that due to an ill-considered exploitation of nature, humanity risks destroying it and becoming a victim of this degradation. A year earlier, while speaking to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, Paul VI stated that the continued deterioration of the environment risks provoking a true ecological catastrophe. Bezos also expressed his gratitude to the Catholic Church for its role in education. He shared a personal story about his father, who arrived in the United States from Cuba without knowing English. Two priests who managed a mission in Delaware stepped in to help. Along with 15 other boys, they housed him, educated him, and provided him with opportunities he wouldn't have had otherwise, Bezos said. We're already witnessing the pollution of the air we breathe and the water we drink. Rivers, lakes, and even oceans are becoming polluted, leading to fears of a true biological disaster in the near future if strong, immediate, and courageous actions are not taken and strictly enforced, he warned. But did the popes after Paul VI continue to build on this message? Continuing this theme was Pope John Paul II, who addressed the need to care for creation in his 1990 message for the World Day of Peace, where he declared that the ecological crisis is a moral issue. He began his message by stating, "In our time, there is a growing recognition that world peace is not only threatened by the arms race, regional conflicts and ongoing injustices between peoples and nations, but also by a lack of respect for nature, the exploitation of natural resources, and the gradual decline in the quality of life. In the face of widespread environmental destruction, people everywhere are realizing that we cannot continue to use the Earth's resources as we have in the past. Both the general public and political leaders are concerned about this issue, and experts from various fields are studying its causes. Moreover, a new ecological awareness is starting to emerge, which should not be downplayed but rather encouraged to develop into concrete programs and initiatives." Later in his message, John Paul II pointedly addresses the harmful long-term effects that scientific and technological advances, especially the use of fossil fuels, have had on our ecosystem. The gradual depletion of the ozone layer and the related greenhouse effect have now reached crisis levels due to the industrial growth, massive urbanization, and a surge in energy demands. Industrial waste, fossil fuel combustion, unchecked deforestation, and the use of certain herbicides, coolants, and propellants. These are all known culprits harming our atmosphere and environment. The meteorological and atmospheric changes that result can range from health issues to the potential future submersion of low-lying areas. While some damage might already be irreversible, in many other cases it can still be stopped. However, it requires the entire human community, individuals, states, and international organizations to take their responsibility seriously. John Paul emphasized that the ecological crisis reveals the urgent moral need for a new solidarity, especially in the relationship between developed and developing nations. He insisted that states must increasingly share responsibility in complementary ways for promoting a natural and social environment that's both peaceful and healthy. He also made it clear that developing nations should not be asked to enforce restrictive environmental standards on their economies unless more industrialized nations take the lead in doing so first. John Paul II seemed to touch on climate change, but have other popes addressed it more directly? Pope Benedict XVI, often called the Green Pope, specifically tackled climate change in many of his statements and speeches. One of the most notable was his 2010 World Day of Peace message titled, "If you want to cultivate peace, protect creation." He asked, can we remain indifferent to the problems linked to climate change? Desertification, the decline and loss of productivity in vast agricultural areas, pollution of rivers and aquifers, loss of biodiversity, the rise in natural disasters, and the deforestation of equatorial and tropical regions? Can we ignore the growing number of environmental refugees, people forced to leave their homes due to the degradation of their natural environment? Can we stand by and do nothing as conflicts arise over access to natural resources? These are all issues that deeply affect human rights, including the right to life, food, health, and development. Benedict emphasized, the Church has a responsibility towards creation, and she sees it as her duty to protect earth, water, and air as gifts from God the Creator, intended for everyone and to save humanity from the danger of self-destruction. Then came Pope Francis, who delivered the Church's most comprehensive message on climate change with his encyclical Laudato Si. He wrote, "The climate is a common good, belonging to all and meant for all, and essential for human life." Francis continued, "A very solid scientific consensus shows that we're currently witnessing a disturbing warming of the climate system. Humanity must recognize the need for changes in lifestyle, production, and consumption to combat this warming, or at least the human causes that produce or worsen it." He further stated, "We know that technology is based on highly polluting fossil fuels, especially coal, but also oil, and to a lesser extent gas, needs to be progressively replaced without delay." But Pope Francis wasn't always this way before 2007. He describes his journey of learning as a conversion. When his fellow Latin American bishops chose him in 2007 to draft the final document for the historic Aparecida meetings, he initially questioned, how do these Brazilians keep insisting on the Amazon region? what does the Amazon have to do with evangelization? At that time, the future Pope didn't share his colleagues' concerns about the environment, particularly the issues raised by the Brazilian bishops regarding the Amazon. Fast forward, and this Pope now faces criticism from some quarters for his concern of the planet, despite aligning with his predecessors, especially Benedict XVI, the so-called Green Pope. So, what changed? By his own account, Francis experienced an ecological conversion, something he believes we all need. Before that, I didn't understand anything, he admitted. The Holy Father shared this during an informal hour-long conversation with a group of French experts who advised the bishops of France on Laudato Si', his encyclical on Our Common Home. Setting aside his prepared remarks, he spoke candidly about various experiences that shaped his understanding of environmental issues. One story he recounted was from 2014 when he met Ségolène Royal, France's environment minister, who urged him to have the encyclical ready before the Paris conference so that it could influence the global dialogue. The Pope shared another experience from his 2018 visit to Peru, where he met with indigenous chiefs. He was deeply impressed by their wisdom, saying it was more than just intelligence. One of the chiefs was a university professor, another was a government official in education, and a third was studying political science. Reflecting on their contributions, the Pope emphasized the need to move away from the stereotype of indigenous people as merely people with arrows. In reality, it's the indigenous people who are teaching us to rediscover the concept of good living, a wisdom we've lost, he explained. He added, forgetting one's roots is a tragedy, not only for indigenous people but also for modern culture. The Pope also talked about some of the practical steps he took while writing Laudato Si'. He consulted scientists to understand things that are clear and proven, not just hypotheses, and then asked philosophers and theologians to help him reflect on the issue. He told the group that he wanted to highlight his journey from understanding nothing at Aparecida in 2007 to being able to write an encyclical on the subject. I like to share this experience because it shows that we must work to help everyone make this journey of ecological conversion. Today, the Catholic Church, from the Vatican to the US Conference of Catholic Bishops and local parishes, is working to raise awareness about climate change among lay Catholics. The Church educates individuals, churches, schools, religious colleges and universities, and other Catholic institutions on how to reduce energy use and live more sustainably. It also advocates for legislative action by state governments, the US Congress, and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change to reduce carbon emissions. The Vatican and the US bishops clearly support the scientific consensus on climate change. But did you know that approximately 77 million US Catholics are not unified on the issue? While dissent is not particularly organized, there are many who are unhappy with the Church's stance. Some Roman Catholics, sharing socially conservative views with evangelicals, reject mainstream climate science. Despite this, the Catholic Church's leaders have taken a strong position on the issue, framing the challenge of climate change in language specific to Catholicism, but also relevant to people of other faiths. The Church teaches that taking action to curb carbon emission is fundamentally a moral imperative. Climate change is also viewed through the lens of 4 guiding principles: acting with prudence in the face of uncertainty, protecting the poor and vulnerable, working towards the common good, and promoting human solidarity, both with one another and with future generations. If you made it all the way to this part in the video, you may qualify for our membership, so you might want to listen close.